Alright, we are going to do some Golf Clash here. I am going to go through a couple of the new holes if I can get it. As you see, there's a tournament coming up. It's UK, which is going to be Tour 5 and 10, which I'm assuming for the most part is going to be the long tees. Which is more like Tour 10. I'm going to do Tour 5 just to kind of go through some. Hopefully I can draw a few holes off the new. So there's 5 new holes on this course. 2 are par 3s, 2 are par 5s, and 1 is a par 4. And basically what I've noticed is all the new holes kind of have multiple approaches, ways to play it. They really added a variety of different shots that you can hit into these and still wind up with halfway decent. There's 2 par 3s that you'll see on the tiebreaker holes. Both of them are rather long. I've been having to hit driver on one of them no matter what. There's water and bunkers on that one. There's another one that has a lot of trees and some bunkers. And that one for the short tees is more of a 3-wood driver if it's straight in the face. Of course, here we drew the old course, so I guess I'm going to play this like how I would, and hopefully they'll give us a par 3, one of the new par 3s. I typically play this shot like this. I'll pull off over to the side, see how much of the rough I'm going to hit, and that's more or less how much rough that I like to hit. So next is really trying to focus on that perfect ball. It's very important. When you hit the perfect ball, it's going to go exactly where you aim. It goes way offline with driver if you're not perfect. So as you can see, I had it on line, a little bit more downwind or a little bit more power, just a little bit, and I would have potentially got to that hole there and gave it a chance at a hole-in-one. That's a little bit harder to do with Mile. You really need something that's going to have at least 5 topspin to pull off that shot that I just hit. And the less you have, the lefter you have to play it. So as you can see, I kind of more went straight at it, and you could see that it just kind of ended up there. With this guy, I could still hit it with his club. I'd have to be more aggressive on the end of the fairway, and I'd have to aim over to the left a bit more. And then maybe try to curl it in. You need to make sure you hit a lot less of that rough if you're going to play that. So I'm not really sure if this guy's going to make this or not. So I'll just go ahead and putt it. It'd be nice if he makes it. I could have just missed it, but then we might not have got to the playoff hole anyway because he might make this. So, and the wind's not very strong, so there's a good chance that he can get this to fall if he can hit a perfect ball, but we'll see. Nevertheless, if this doesn't work out, okay, oh wow, he got green colored. I hate when that happens. Okay, well, we'll just refresh our opponent here, and we'll get our new one. In any circumstance, at least I showed you that shot in the event that you haven't seen that one played here yet on that hole. I'm sure a lot of guys playing it that way. It's better from Cataclysm 3 on to be playing it like that. Anything less, it can be a little bit more challenging. Sometimes on those short tees, I'll try to go at it, just bouncing it off the rough. But in any way, the way that I do it, the way that I just played that one is the most consistent for me, for my game. So okay, so we drew one of the new par 5s. This is hole 6. And the shot that I play is right here. It's off the fairway. Again, concentrating on perfect balls is going to be the big key. So as you see, I have full topspin. I'm still in the bunker. So what am I going to do? I'm going to just try to curl this just a little bit extra. And again, trying to focus on that perfect ball. You miss those perfect balls, and this course is not going to be forgiving. With that being said, another thing you might not want to try to do is getting down there too far like I just did. It starts bringing those trees into play. So somebody with a little bit less backspin like this guy, especially with this wind, he can take advantage of this a little bit better than me. But he's going to try it with a regular ball. It's going to be a little bit tougher. He's not going to be using any side spin, which means he's going to have to curl it a bit more. Still play it aggressive. He got the perfect ball. He should be fine here. Let's see. You can see it's right up that left side. You want to avoid that just in case it hits that rough there. But where he is, depending on the next club that he has, he's fine. Now what I've been seeing on this one, this can be a little bit of a challenge too, because as you see, those trees are in play there on the right, on the left, sorry, of where I'm aiming. So what I've noticed here, it's a little bit of topspin because you got to make sure that you get, but again, one thing you cannot do is you cannot try to curl this in here. It's not gonna, this course isn't going to allow you to do that. In fact, I'm going to have to actually curl it the other way, counterintuitive, to curl it away from the hole, but that's the only way I can get it to the green here, is by curling it away from the hole, which sucks because you never want to have to do this, but it's the only way that I'm going to be able to try to salvage this green. And usually I'm just trying to get it right over here on the corner somewhere to a spot that I can make the putt. It's almost impossible to go aggressive on that flag unless I was to be able to get where he is. Now, depending on what club he's using, see, he's using Sniper. He's still going to have a bit of work because of how far back he is. So he can get there. It's going to require a lot of power, and again, he cannot try to curl this at all. If he does, he's going to hit that damn tree. So you want to, and that just kind of, brings in how critical side spin balls are going to be, especially for this tournament upcoming. If you don't have a side spin ball, I mean, how are you going to ever give that a shot at the hole? There's almost nowhere you can play it to where you'll actually get a shot to where you could legitimately try to eagle that, unless you're using a side spin ball. Alright, so now let's try to get some putts in the cup and get to one of the new par 3s. What I don't like about the par 3s that I've noticed so far is they're huge funnels. You basically end up with two guys who hit virtually the exact same shots, and you're just trying to beat somebody by half a yard. Of course, this guy missed the putt. We're not even going to get to see it. That's a bit unfortunate. But like I was saying, both of the new par 3s, they're funnels. And if you hit the shot a certain way, it's just going to trickle down there and end up right next to the hole. So my goal here is to walk you through some of those. And it'd be nice if I could get second, if I could watch somebody play the hole, and so that way I can figure out what I have to do to make sure we end up in the tiebreaker. Because if I'd have known he was going to miss that putt, I would have just missed mine, so we could have played that hole. But the par 3s, both of them, it's just you're trying to hit a closer shot with driver, and that's always just kind of huge luck factor. Now there's going to be some skill, and that's kind of where I'm going to kind of lean towards playing Tour 10, and I'm going to find, expert more exciting, because you bring in that extra factor of 10 and 12 mile per hour winds when everybody on these smaller winds are hitting virtually the same shots on the par 3. At least they're going to have to start playing the winds and playing them correctly in order to get the ball to react the way that they want. So it's going to be a little bit more challenging to hit those little funnels that I'm speaking of. There's multiple ways to attack it, but I've found the par 3s, both of them, have one distinct way that it's just rolling close every time. And then it's a competition of who can hit it 2.1 yards and then who hits it 2.4 yards or whatever. You can even get inside that. Eventually, it might be a little bit easier to figure out how to... Okay, so I just played that shot. Let me walk through this, because this is an alternate way of playing it. So it's downwind. I'm going to do about 2.5, and I'm going to try to hit this rough here. This is a bit of a challenging shot. So I'm going to want to play this wind probably about there. And again, how important hitting a perfect ball is here. If you don't get your perfect ball, it's going to go so far offline that you might not hit that damn rough. And you can see I was right off the hole there. That was a little unfortunate. Needed a little bit more curl, and I could have had that one. Okay, so with this guy, he's right off the green. He should make this. Nevertheless, if he misses it, I'll miss mine, but I'm hoping that they give us a new one. Now, early yesterday, they were giving me the new playoff holes every time on the tiebreakers. Late afternoon, when I was playing all these old holes, they had the old par 3 on there. So I'm not sure how it's going to work out today. But we'll see, because we're heading there, and I'm just hoping it's the new one and not that old par 3 that you guys have probably seen 10 times at least by now. You've probably seen every win 10 times. All right, so let's see where they put us here. Okay, this is the new one. This is the longest of the two. So there's two ways that I play this. Both have their advantages. The way that he's about to go, you want to get high up on that slope up on the left side there. The higher you get it up, the harder it comes down, which is what you want, because I haven't seen anybody run it past yet. I've played this probably at least a dozen times yesterday, trying to just try a whole variety of things. This was the most consistent. So you get it up there, and you use topspin. You get it high up on that slope. The higher you get it up on that fairway, the more it runs out. So that shank isn't really helping him. Because it's just making it go lower when you want it to be a little bit higher. But it's coming in. He's going to be okay. It's just going to stop short. That's the only problem with the way that he just did it. Now, I also am going to go that way just so I can show you how to actually try to get it up that hill a little bit harder. And I do mine with a curl too, but there's another shot here through the trees here, and this works out too. But what I've noticed, you got to get this way high up on the slope. So you see, if I was going to hit this, I'd want it to be used as a backstop right there, and I need it to land way over left, because it's still going to funnel down to the rough. So if you see where I'm aiming here, this is more or less kind of would get it on the hole. So perfect ball would be pretty critical there. So what I'm going to try here is I'm going to try this driver, and I'm going to try to get this with a little bit more slope. Looks like I'm going to get this up here pretty high, and then I'm going to hit my hook. I'm going to make sure that it really gets up there. That's how you're going to get that boomerang. And as you can see how fast this thing's coming in, this is the hardest I've hit it yet, so I want to see what this does. Okay, so now I finally passed the hole. So you see how somewhere in between our two shots there was perfect. And I haven't seen anybody swung it around to that side of the hole yet. So I've really tried to exaggerate, get way up on top there, and that's what I was able to do. So if you can use that to your advantage, that's the way that I'd say so far is the most consistent way to play that par 3. But the shot that I was trying to line up first, if you can perfect that is also, but it's going to be highly critical that you hit a perfect ball and the winds aren't too tricky, because you're going over those trees, and side winds, you're going to have to really thread it through those trees and try to curl it certain ways to avoid the trees. It's going to be really challenging, but I think you could perfect that shot as well. And plus, it's always good to maybe have in your arsenal, depending on the wind that you get, it could potentially be harder to get as much rollout as I just did on that side slope shot. And you saw that I tried to full curl it, and I also side spinned it, and I also top spun it up. So all of those factors combined was able to get it to the hole. I probably used 3 or 4 bars of topspin there to really make sure that it was slingshotting, and my driver there was at as short as it could go. It's a little bit easier to play from the back tees, depending on the wind, of course, but it's more of like a, mid to full driver. It just kind of, it's more of a natural club that way. But if I would have just, hit it the way that they lined it up, it would have been okay, but you really want to slingshot that fairway to get it down there the whole way. So now I've showed you basically 2 of the new, you got to see 2 of the new 5 holes in there. So hopefully you can use that, and you can try to, hit similar shots there and still, come up with some good ways to play those holes, and to be able to make sure you get those for the par 5, get that eagle, and on the par 3, at least at a minimum, be able to hit that green to where you can get it close, even if you're not, because like I said, you see, both of us get down there, say I hit my shot, and then basically I'm just trying to hit it 1 yard closer, just a tiny bit closer than that guy, and the margin of error seems to be so great. Like, there's so many different ways to play it, and it's just more of a luck factor, which I kind of don't like that they did it that way, that there's not one that's, more of a skill-based. The way that you're using those slopes, it's the same thing for the other. So if you do that shot, that left to right that I just did there, if you try to do that on the other new par 3, you're going to get very similar results. They're just kind of stacking the deck to where that if you can hit it and then do that same left to right curl on the next hole, you'll see a very similar shot come in, and it'll just run right by the hole. So your best bet on both of the new par 3s is just going left to right like that, using the slope and just getting it close to the hole. And most importantly, will be for the tournament upcoming for next week, would just be get your birdies and move on to the next hole. Because if you do something just slightly off on those par 3s, well, you might get left up on those hills. You want to make sure you just, fairways and greens. Just get on that green, make that birdie, and try to take your chances when you can, because this whole tour, except for the drivable par fours, this whole tour is going to be a bit of a challenge. All the shots are getting more complicated in these later tours. You saw a lot of that in the last tour, which was like the Tour 9, the 6-star hotel course. Those are very strategic type shots. This UK is even more strategic. It's getting more challenging. So if they get to the very last tour, that's the hardest course in my opinion. It's more so to do with the length than anything. I think they have a hole in that course that's like 700 yards. And all the par 5s are like that. You need a ton of wind just to even get the eagles out of the question unless you get downwind on them. So it's more about just getting your birdies and staying away from the par. So you can't miss your fairways, and you just gotta be consistent. I can show you a little bit. Let's see. I have, in that last tournament, I ended up getting a second place medal. The one before that, I also got a second, and then I had a 5th place down here on the Asia Pacific, and that was also 4 of us shot minus 25, and I didn't keep my composure on those earlier rounds. It was more of, just hit risky shots, and I lost a lot of tiebreakers because I had minus 25 on this one and got 5th place, and 4 of us had minus 25, and I was the last person because I was just trying to hit, I was just going for it. And I've kind of learned that backing off a little bit is kind of a better strategy. If you can just take advantage, like this right here, when I shot this round in the tournament, I didn't have a single par, but I only had one hole that was, a legitimate eagle. So if you guys remember this tournament, the very last hole was a par 5, which was the only one that was, eagle every time. You just want to make sure that you get to the green and get that eagle. And aside from those 2 eagles that I got on the round, I made 1 other eagle, and the rest were birdies. It was a minus 21. And I tied with 2 other guys, and I fell in the middle of them. So it just goes to show just how important those tiebreakers are. If you can put together 3 solid scores, no matter what number you fall. One of the greatest things was after my first round, I was kind of in the middle, and there was 10 guys that had the same score. I was the very top of those 10 guys because I had minus 10 on my qualifying round for this tournament. And then since everybody else, for my next round, I was at 17 under. There was 10 of us that had 17 under, but none of them had 10 under, except for me. So I was automatically higher than all those other guys. But it came back to bite me because in the final round, because of that second round was not as good, I lost to one other guy because he had a better opening round than me, which is the Thursday